Okay, I am back with the second review of the day. And I'm going to review Jeepers Creepers 3. Another sequel to a horror movie franchise that has essentially been dead for a really long time. Jeepers Creepers 3. I'm going to start this review, I guess, by saying that I am a big fan of the first Jeepers Creepers. I actually think the first Jeepers Creepers is one of the best horror films of the last 20 years. A lot of people probably disagree with me on that. Jeepers Creepers seems to be one of those horror films where it's like, it's kind of divided down the middle, where it's like you either love it or you either fucking think it's stupid and you hate it. The second film is even more divided than the first film, where it's like the second film definitely is like you either like it or you hate it. And I like the second film. It's not nearly as I said, it's not nearly as good as the first movie, but I really like the second film. I like the approach they took with it, where essentially they kind of did an Aliens approach to it, where it's like the first film was like straight horror, and the second film is horror, but there's a lot of action in it, and that's one of the things I like about it. Let's just get into it. Jeepers Creepers 3 essentially is not a sequel. It takes place between the events of the first film and the second film. So actually, Jeepers Creepers 1.5. Um, I'm not going to go into too much detail. Again, I'm trying to keep these reviews short. But essentially, all I'll say is that we waited 13 or so years for this film, and it wasn't worth the wait. The film mostly takes place during the day, and when we see the creeper, it is mostly during the day. And that fucking sucks because you're essentially just putting the creeper out there in the daytime, and it's just weird to see the creeper in the daytime. I know it's not like, in the first film and the second film, like they do show that he does come out during the day, but the majority of those films took place during night. And this film, the big majority of this film takes place during the day. So it just becomes really weird. It's like, well, it's just weird to see the creeper essentially just fucking around during the daytime with, no shadow, just right there, and he's got like this bright red shirt on too, which is really weird, and I don't remember him wearing a red shirt. I didn't I'd had to think about it. I'd have to watch the first two films again, but like I don't think his shirt was red. And it was, if it was red, it wasn't this fucking bright red. And like it just pops and it just looks weird. The creeper just looks really out of place in this film in the daytime. So that hurt the film a lot, them making it take place during the day. The other thing is the main characters. The main characters in this film are basically a teenage girl and a teenage boy, and they're not really a couple, but they're supposed to, I guess, be a couple. I'm not going to go into their whole backstory, but essentially, guy likes girl, girl likes guy, and there's fucking no chemistry whatsoever. They are terrible characters, and like, they really should not have been the main characters of this film, because there are a couple better characters. There's an older lady who's actually the teenage girl's grandmother. She's this woman who keeps seeing the ghost of her dead son, who it's explained was killed by the creeper 23 years ago. And he explains to her that the creeper lost something on this farm and it's buried here, and the creeper's going to come back for it. And she essentially finds what it is, and it's his severed hand. And like she touches it, and she ends up having like some kind of premonition, or fucking it supposedly is supposed to explain who the creeper is and explain how to kill it, apparently, but unfortunately the film never answers that question, and I'll get to that in a second. But she's a really interesting character, and she's played very well. And then there's another character who's this guy who's essentially like the head of, like, they're not cops, but they're like a fucking like SWAT team that like is assembled just to fight the creature. Like, this guy knows what the creature is because he bumped into it years and years ago, and essentially he created like this like fucking like SWAT team of like that's made up of people who either had a connection or had an encounter with the creeper or lost to somebody to the creeper. And essentially it's this like SWAT team of people who are together to essentially just kill the creeper. And that's really cool and that's really interesting. But it's unfortunately like this movie doesn't follow them. And like realistically, I think, I really think that the film should have been about these characters, because I think it would have been a much more interesting film. It's not that they're not in the film. They show up. They do have encounters with the creature. I mean, with the creeper. But the whole film should have been this. The whole film should not have really focused around these two teenage characters that I could give two shits about, because these characters and this like setup was far more interesting. And the biggest problem I have with this film is that the best way I could describe this film is that it's essentially feels like a pilot to a Jeepers Creepers television show. And why I say that is because this film sets up plot points and it sets up fucking questions that it never answers. Even saying that, like, I could see even like kind of like the production value of this movie really at times feels like a fucking made for TV film. There's parts of this film that look good. There are special effects in this film that look actually really good, like fucking movie theater quality. And then there's parts of this film where the effects and shit look like crap. And like the production value just goes downhill and like looks like a made for TV movie at times, and then at times it looks like a fucking movie made for fucking theaters. One more thing I'll get into is that they essentially end up making that his fucking truck is like self-aware. I it doesn't make any sense. Essentially, they explain that his truck can drive on its own and has a mind of its own, and this film did not fucking need to set that up because it doesn't make any fucking sense. You know, again, just like Cult of Chucky, the best way to describe, if I could describe Jeepers Creepers 3 in one word, it's disappointing. It's disappointing because I waited so long. This is one of the more anticipated sequels, one of the more fucking, it's a long awaited sequel. This is a sequel fucking, the fans of this fucking franchise have been fucking clamoring for. We've been waiting for it. We've been patient as fuck. And then finally we get one, and it's fucking this. And it's just a big ball of fucking disappointment. It really is. So overall, I give Jeepers Creepers 3 a 4 out of 10. There's good ideas. There's some good stuff in this. There are some scenes in this film that are actually genuinely pretty good. But unfortunately, everything else is just a giant fucking misstep. It's not even a fucking sequel, technically. It fucking takes place between the first one and the second one. So realistically, it should have been called Jeepers Creepers 1.5, not fucking 3. It just sucks because I can't sit there and tell you should go out and fucking, buy this or try to watch it whenever it gets released on fucking home release or whatever. Like, I can't sit there and tell you it's worth it, because it's not. It's not worth it. But in the same time, it's like, I hope this film does do good enough, so maybe we could finally get the fucking Jeepers Creepers 3 story that we were fucking meant to get all that long ago, So, like, in a way, like, I hope this film does do well enough so I could see the conclusion. I could see that story. The story that it sets up at the end. But at the same time, it's like, I really don't recommend you see this. It's not good. So, I'm going to end it there. I rambled on long enough for this film for what I wanted to be short reviews. I sure am rambling about them. But I'm going to end it right there. So, to recap, I give Jeepers Creepers 3 a 4 out of 10. Don't go see it. Or fucking don't rent it when it comes out. Don't buy it. Not worth your time. Fucking disappointing. Not worth the fucking 13-year or so wait for it. Just a big ball of disappointment. So, that's going to do it. Please thumbs up the video if you like it. Please subscribe to our channel if you want to see more reviews. And please leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of Jeepers Creepers 3 if you saw it. Maybe you didn't think it was nearly as bad. Maybe you were looking forward to fucking the new one. I don't know. Just leave a comment. Let me know what you think if you saw it. I'm going to cut it right there, and I'm going to be back with Gerald's Game.